Hey, Alex, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I am really well. I'm excited to be speaking to you. You are wrapping up season 4 of the podcast. So I'm delighted that you're here.
No pressure at all there, Pete. No pressure.
So we first met last year at CMX and then again this year at CMX. And it was great to kind of continue those conversations and hear more about where you live, but also just hear your passion for community come through.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was like, I know this podcast will be really simple because it's me and you. We've been just chatting about community for 2 years now. So here we go.
It's exciting. So I think a really good place to start would be like community managers hold so many different roles, they do so many different things, but like how would you explain your job to a 5-year-old?
Well, I haven't had to explain my job several times to my for 7-year-old and 4-year-old. I like to explain it as really simple as I love. Mom likes to connect everyone together to ensure that everyone feels included, welcome, and open to share and lead with curiosity. It's like a big thing as a parent, as a friend, as a colleague. I like to kind of emphasize leading with curiosity to ask questions and learn together. So that's a big thing that I try to explain to my children of what I do. And so sometimes they think that I'm doing something totally off, that I'm not. But, community starts with you and me, I think, is what the Sesame Street song goes. So, yeah.
Very nice. And then why don't you dig into a little bit more about what your actual kind of specific role is? So you've been at Collibra for a couple of years now?
Yeah, I'll be there 2 years at that in August, and so my role specifically really helps our value, like our framework of our community is really we're trying to help our data citizens really understand what they're doing and learning from their peers and ensuring that they're able to. Yes, a product feedback loop is great, but ultimately my goal is to ensure that everyone feels heard because we really see as community managers, that's a big thing that we lead with, right? Hearing, listening, and ensuring that there's just a lot of value between their needs. And so I help build those kinds of strategies out of whether we're focusing on our content or we're just trying to do user groups to really work with our customer verticals. That's a big part of my job. My biggest passion right now has been working with our customer user groups because that's where you get to hear the tidbits of information and how customers are really using the product, because you can tell them a framework and then they're like, well, that's cool, but this is what I decided to do with it. So I like the fact that our product is so unique that our customers in each area of their own business has the opportunity to be like showcased.
And why don't you explain to the audience what Collibra does as a product, as a business?
Yeah, so we are a data governance and AI governance company. We are a product that essentially helps customers be able to ensure that there's a lot of compliance with their data. There's so many different things I could go on and on about what we do, but long and short, we really help ensure their customers are getting as much value out of their data as possible and being able to utilize it for all different areas of their business, whether doing high level reporting with Tableau connections, things like that, or just ensuring, again, like I mentioned, compliance. Because we work with customers from anywhere from gov to higher education to financial services. Like we're kind of a little bit all over the map, which again I find a lot of value in learning from our customers because I feel like I walk away learning something new every day.
Nice, fun. And so, like I'm saying, when you were saying that, my brain instantly went to like health tech. Like I would imagine you have clients in the healthcare industry because there's so much compliance and obviously data security around that you can't just be keeping data in random places and letting anyone have access to random reports. There's quite a lot of compliance there.
Oh yeah, and yeah, no, with some of our healthcare user group, we are utilizing a different system now, but they've been really operating independently for a few years because I think that's one of our biggest customers. Like because there's just so many people that are really again looking to ensure compliance and learn, and that's a whole other like web of community in itself that is just really fun.
And is your community purely online, or do you ever meet up in person?
So in Collibra as a whole, I really like to look at our community as like part of our ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to sound hokey saying that, but I genuinely feel that way. Here's like the center of the community. And then we have our customer marketing events. So we'll do whether we're doing online webinars or very targeted circle customer things. And then we have our field team that really helps us conduct in-person gatherings. Some of our user groups do meet in person so that I get to help be like, all right, we're not going to do it virtual this month. Like, let's try to meet in DC or New York or things like that. So it's a little bit of an ebb and flow of everything. We do utilize this phrase called keep the conversation going, no matter if we're an in person or a webinar. So let's come back to the community, let's come back to your user groups. So we're kind of trying to facilitate a little bit of best of both worlds. We know it's not always budget friendly when we're always able to like go in person, but if we are in person, we try to really capture those notes to bring them back to the community because we know that those not everyone can attend in real life.
So you mentioned there a little bit about what the community does. So obviously you've kind of got the community, and I'm sure you report metrics to leadership and management of ultimately what they want your community to do and drive forward. And then your community members, they have needs that they're trying to address. How do you weave those together to make sure that everyone above and below you is happy?
So sometimes I think it's just part of a puzzle piece. So like on ROI and those KPIs, like when you're able to hit some of those, you're going to see that puzzle piece is going to transcend to like some content or like, all right, we're pivoting content. We're either going to pivot where our next location is going to be. We're going to pivot how our product is going to go. So I think when you kind of focus on your ROIs in a healthy way, don't overly focus on them because then you're ignoring that listening piece of your customers. Everything kind of falls into place. But a big part of that is listening. Ultimately, again, listening to what your customers are needing, not assuming, because then all of those KPIs that you're really trying to work with to appease leadership, to show value in that community, because we do know communities can be sometimes the first things that are cut when there's budgets. You If you focus on those in a healthy way, but continue listening, I think everything kind of falls into place. Doesn't mean it's not challenging though. But again, if you ignore that listening aspect, I think that a lot of those things go out the window.
The assumption thing there was interesting. I think every time, every year I get a bit older, I kind of clock how important clarity is against assumptions, especially running the business we run. Like, as soon as there's an assumption, I really challenge my team to go and challenge that assumption, because we might think a client wants this, or we might think that they've signed it off, but have we got absolute clarity over that assumption? And the same as in your relationship with your kids or your family or whatever it is. Like, it's those assumptions that kind of niggle away, and then it only really rears its head later down the line. And yeah, they're the ones that come and bite you in the ass, aren't they?
Yes, no, definitely. Because I mean, that's where I definitely try and no assumptions. We can definitely we do rest underneath marketing, right? So sometimes communities rest under CS. Most of my career, I did rest underneath CS in my community stuff. Now I'm underneath marketing. So a big part of that is also education, right? Is like teaching people what you're doing in the community, why you're doing it in the community, and then they're going to have better expectations to be able to support you a little bit deeper.
That's good. And how are you supporting each of your community members to try and come back into the community flywheel of generating content and stirring conversation rather than just kind of consuming from you and the team?
Yeah, so there's two, like I like to call them like low hanging fruit opportunities that we do. Is one, biannual surveys, right? So like those are great. I try to stay away from an NPS style, but by asking like real questions, you're not always going to get those, like all of your community members to respond. You're going to get like a small little percentage, but you're going to be able to grab what they're needing, what they want. And then also I do surveys quarterly within each user group. So that again is giving you more feedback loop of like, what do you want to hear? What do you want to talk about? We try to keep our user groups though very user run and with Collibra support. Like that is ultimately the goal. We're not trying to run a user group. We're trying to, because we have webinars, we have all these other things. What do you need? What do you want to present on? How can we help you support your thought leadership a little bit? So those are two, I call them like low hanging fruit that we're able to really like capture holistically and not feel like it's such a big exercise. Now, of course, I'll always take more data as it comes. We are a data governance company, so like let's grab things where we can. Another place we definitely do is with our newsletters. Like, shoot us an email. Do you want to have a meeting with us? Do you want to tell us what you like? Let's not talk even about the Collibra product. What do you want to give you in the community?
Mm.
That's a big thing that I think sometimes businesses a little bit lose sight of when we're so focused on like what our community is doing for our business. What do you need from a community? What will make you want to step up, provide content, ask questions? And so I always kind of leave that door open. I have started an initiative that I've like reached out to a customer, just like, hey, do you want to just, especially if someone gives me feedback on a forum or something like, oh, I really wish this was more enhanced. All right, do you want to chat about it so I can bring that back to our team? Um, let's keep it going. And again, keeping grain of salt, right? Like not everything we're gonna not gonna move mountains tomorrow, but making sure we're open.
Yeah, and it does feel like often for a customer or a community member, the community manager is often a bit like a shortcut through to a product development team or feedback into the fiscal team or whatever it is, because you can listen and distill quite quickly into the internal Slack or Teams or whatever you're using. So it's a bit of a shortcut, isn't it? Often if you're trying to get information through the hires at different places.
Yeah, and but I definitely try to lead with like some anonymity, like letting them be anonymous a little
Mm.
bit if they want to give us feedback about something in our product, but they don't want to be necessarily tied to it, or if they're like, "Hey, this is something I'm struggling with," like I try to keep it very blanket and high level so that if others feel the same, I can remain approachable versus being like, so and so from this company said this. So now their AE is all up and frazzled. Like, no, we don't want that. We want just a consistent and open dialogue because, again, community is about listening and having fun and peer to peer learning. And let's keep that as like top of mind.
Do you have any like fun anecdotes where you've seen someone go from being like a regular old consumer, like an audience member, all the way through to like an advocate, like flying the flag for the brand sort of thing?
Oh yeah. I don't know if I can mention companies, but like one of my last roles, my goal is to ensure that all of my customers are like those customers because I've seen uh for lack of better terms, like evangelizing the product like deeper in their organization because they felt so much value from the community and felt like we were recognizing them for every single milestone that they contributed along the way.
Mm.
Because you can be an individual contributor or a C-suite exec. Everyone is the same when you enter into a community, and like that's also a big thing that I like to remind folks. Like even if I'm going to measure on who's in my community, like on that ROI, like this many are C-suite and this many are IC, like doesn't matter at the end of the day because we're going to teach them about us and we're going to support them, and then they're going to be able to like, all right, hey, maybe you only use it in Cleaver here in your team, but now you're going to use it 5 other places because you just got rewarded in the community. Like you have a cool MVP jacket that you get to walk around wearing now in your office if you want to. Like, okay, what's that? Or you gamified some sort of experience for them. So, yes, I've definitely seen it. I've been a part of it, and I cannot wait to like. I just think that that brings me the most joy of being a community manager is seeing other people shine in their organizations, but then bring us along with them.
That's really fun. Yeah, we're running an event soon at Stripe's London headquarters. And it was prompted by Ashley Williams, who's head of global community at Stripe, I think her role is. And the title of that event is Audiences to Advocates. And the plan is we're going to fill the room with, CMOs from around London and just kind of talk to them about why community is a really great way to turn folk from who are just regular consumers of your product into folk who want to shout about it and be extension of your team. And I'm really excited for that event. It's pretty much sold out, and I'm jazzed.
That's exciting. No, I think that getting a person into being an advocate for your company definitely starts with community. Like
Mhm.
I mean, I think it kind of like starts and ends, right? Like there's all these little features and spotlights that you can really do because it doesn't have to be just on your forum. It doesn't have to just be in a user group setting. Like you can help champion these people along their careers, and it doesn't have to just be a C-suite, right? It gets to be somebody else in a smaller role that you get to help watch them also build their career because you supported them with their tools.
And like as your communities grow, because obviously you've been in various community roles throughout your time, like how do you balance keeping that personal touch so you can introduce people and welcome them in versus, there's a lot of people in here now. I can't know everyone's birthdays or whatever the thing is. Like I
Yeah,
can't I can't know them all personally. Like how do you balance that to make it feel personable, but also, there's a lot of you. I can't be everywhere.
there's always like, right, there's those lurkers that like to just like thumbs up. If I notice a pattern of somebody that just likes to contribute in that way, not necessarily like write a post or do something, or they might be camera off in a thing, but they're always consistently there. I like to honestly just be as simple as shooting a message. I always talk about just simply shooting a Slack message also to build that internal buy-in, but like shooting that, just shooting a message of being like, hey, I'm recognizing you around here. How are you doing? What can I do for you? I think that those simple touches really help, because sometimes you're going to have those champions that are the top of the leaderboard, right? You're going to always know who they are. They're going to be front and center probably in most of your mindset. But who are the people that are consistently there, right?
Mm.
Sometimes ensuring your community is hooked up with those measuring metrics, whether it's with a Salesforce or Marketo or both, or however you're utilizing it, you're going to be able to look at the data set a little bit deeper and be like, I've seen them. I know that they like what we're doing. Let's just say hi to them, because maybe that's what it takes also for them to want to speak up more, to feel empowered. So those are tiny ways that I try to do that. I also, again, leave myself as an open book of like, hey, if you have an idea, come. Like, here, happy to have a meeting. Let's chat about it. Or if you want to shoot me an email of like 5 things you want and you don't even want to chat with me, sure, that's also fine too. I'll take it. I'll see what I can do. And I love ideating with people.
I always feel like when I meet with various community managers, they always have like a great deal of empathy for their community, but just generally like they're very empathetic people. Does that stem from like something that you kind of learned through your career, or did it always come quite naturally to you?
I think it comes really naturally to me, to be honest. Not to get too horoscopy hokey, but I am a Pisces, so lots of feelings. But no, I think I like to see the value. I don't see people as a number. I see people as a person, and so I want to know, even if you're here during your day job and you want to connect about whatever Collibra's workflows that you're really trying to nail, you're still a person trying to navigate that. You're going to leave also and move on to another job. And I hope I can bring that much value to you where you want to bring Collibra with you along the way.
Hmm.
So just leading with empathy, I think, is a big thing for most community managers, because we get to do, I wouldn't say all the warm, fuzzy stuff, but we get to definitely do like the things that put people first.
But you also, yeah, that's very true. But you also get you can get the extremes, right? Like, I'm so excited to be here. This is great. Like, I'm loving the product versus this is going terribly. Like, why did we sign up for this? I'm only getting a bad experience. And you kind of, it's it's not likely someone's going to get start posting just because they're having a very average time. Like, it's either going to generally be one of the extremes, right? And you kind of have to deal with that while understanding, you're dealing with a wide range of emotions.
I love, okay, I wouldn't say I love hard problems, but or hard situations, but I think I can kind of thrive in underneath those, only because, again, these are people, right? They're frustrated because they want to do the best they can at their job and something isn't clicking for them.
Mhm.
So I kind of am like, all right, I'm hearing you. You're frustrated. Like, let's pivot. And I think some of that also comes back to, I mean, yes, I think that's naturally who I am, but I think I do have an operations and CS background as well as community. So I think it also gives me a different lens to understanding our customers, like, or in different lights. So I kind of utilize some of those tools as well in my back pocket.
So on that operations kind of brain of yours, like how are you when you're rolling out like different initiatives or different things you're doing within the community, how are you segmenting them to make sure you can really measure the success of like the effort you put into, say, a new pilot scheme or a new, I don't know, gamification type thing or whatever it is? Like how are you separating that rather than kind of just one big pool of engagement, like statistics?
All right. So one, I'm always looking, so operationally, I'm always looking at business value, right? Like ultimately, how are these efforts going to help us continue to have a community, a thriving community, a great budget. So I really, Alex Gosney, she's my marketing ops person here at Collibra. She is like literally one of my favorite people because we like to problem solve these situations together. I'll come with her and be like, all right, we have to measure success of these user groups. Let's ensure how they're going in, because keep in mind, everyone else also has a full-time job, even our sales team. How can I show them that our customers are participating in these activities, and
Mm.
what's their, how are they being spotlighted, or what are their achievements, and how can we cohesively tie those back to community in all of the healthy, great, amazing ways. So I think leveraging your tool stack as effectively as you can, like even connecting with an ops person on any team and being like, all right, what do we have? That will also help you show proficient value, like using Salesforce. Where are your, because also we want to say where are our customers at, but where are your employees at? Like, where are people feeling enabled to understand what resources are available so that they can continue to help you shine? And so there's so many different tools, like even utilizing Hendo for, or Can Do for like workflow checklists, like things like that to really help one, engage your customer first, but then tie back to data. What was good? What is working? And helping them again have community at the forefront. Enablement is a big thing.
Do you? So that's really interesting because, like, could you, if you had to choose between being on kind of the front lines of community or working slightly more behind the scenes in ops, would you have a preference? Or do you really like mixing up the hybrids?
I like the hybrid opportunity right now. Operationally, I do love thriving in that area just because, I mean, there's so many tools out there that's really fun.
Mm.
I mean, that's long and short right there. But we, I love the operation, but I love connecting with people. I'm an introvert, extrovert, very simplistically woven together. So like, I definitely love being front facing because then I know the tool that I want to go after is going to be helpful,
Mm.
because I'm getting that feedback right from the source. I'm not really hearing it from three different ways. I'm able to really like dive in and find the solution. And like, that's a big reason why we've migrated platforms and done different things, is because we put our listening ears on, as I say to my girls, and really ensure that we were getting what we could do, like what we could deliver better for our customers. So it's just a little yin and yang, I think.
And you've recently been through a platform migration. Have you got any like top tips for people who may be considering a platform migration coming up?
I would say work like making your own internal checklist with your marketing ops team of things that you find the most valuable. I would say only bring over the most recent 2 years of data is going to be one of the most easy thing for everyone involved. But also, you're going to want your content to be, if you're in a refreshed space, you're going to want your content to be refreshed. You don't want it to be an old UI from 5 years ago and you're migrating over just for migration's sake.
Mm.
You're going to want to ensure that you're adapting alongside your customers. And I would say also just know that there's going to be hiccups, but they're going to be hiccups. Work with a good team, work with somebody that will be a partner with you, to really help you achieve what your end goal is, because that could change. We're in community. Things change all the time,
Mm.
all the time, especially from leadership on down. There's going to be different expectations. So make sure that you're choosing a partner that is willing to grow, and that you're not looking back in 6 months being like, oh no, this is not working for us. Like, have a long-term strategy planned, and then share that with someone when you're researching them, or you're going through the procurement process of being like, this is what I want, this is my goal, do you think you guys can deliver?
Mm.
And then also ask if you can talk to other customers, or go into CMX and say, I'm looking at these people, what do you think? Have those meetings. That's going to actually really shape your perspective of what's out there as well.
You're trying to remove some of those.
Assumptions.
Thank you. You're trying to remove some of those assumptions. Exactly. By in doing what you're doing there, you're making it very clear to leadership downwards, like this is the plan, this is what we need to achieve. But also with the platform we're moving to, like these are what we need to do. It's very black and white, rather than keeping it vague. You be very specific about what needs to happen, and then that way the assumptions aren't there. And hopefully, if you're talking to someone half reasonable on the other side, they'll be very clear, being like, we don't do that, or like, we don't have that feature, quite quickly.
Yeah. Well, and then there's that honesty, right? When they are able to be honest with you, you're able to then pivot your strategy a little bit further. I am a big component around keeping whatever your strategy is, ensuring that it can be evergreen, right? So like, it's not just hitting this one mark right here, right now, because keep in mind, marketing and things like that, like things are always shifting and changing, but how can you ensure that like the value and you're not having assumptions about what could be right here and what you want are like two different things. So it's, I think, again, that's why I find the energy in having operational and like front facing, because they definitely intertwine. But remaining evergreen in your efforts are going to keep it long term success.
And we're going to wrap up. I'm going to ask you what your biggest takeaway from CMX was, as that's the place we've met twice. Like, what was the thing that you're like, that was gold?
So many. So you have no idea. I like did my own internal presentation all about CMX. It was a good old time. One of my bigger takeaways, I think this year's theme, unintentional theme, was very tangible takeaways, right? So I love the focus on honing in, and Rich always does a good job. We all know this, but really talking about what is a strategy. That's been actually a really great talking point for me to talk with internal teams. Because again, we're trying to ensure that enablement really exists. But what is a strategy? Like, why we can say we want to get 85% of customers in our community, because we're an open concept community with gated materials. So that means we want everyone to sign up, but they can still find their sources. So what's our real strategy there? How are we thinking about that? What is the value? And I actually retook that same session. I rewatched the session recently because I was trying to drive a conversation forward with a different team. And so that was one of my favorite takeaways, because there's a very actionable and simplistic questions within it, but it helps you set expectations, lose the assumptions, and really move forward. So yeah, we all know Rich really delivers in that area of business as well. But I mean, every single speaker this year, I just found so much value in. Even you, I loved when you brought real world into what community is, because ultimately, again, back to empathy, we're all people. Every single tiny thing is curated for an experience of some sort. And I think like all of the conversations throughout CMX really was evident in that.
That is the perfect place to finish. Thank you so much for joining me, Alex. Where can people either find you online or find out more about Collibra?
Community.collibra.com or on LinkedIn, Alex Jorgenson.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited. It's been so good to chat, and I'm excited to hopefully see you again at some point soon. This is the Digital Community Leaders Survey 2023. And this is the Digital Community Leaders Survey 2023 second edition. Back in 2023, we released a beautiful printed book. And due to its popularity, we sold out of printed copies. Rather than reprinting, we listened to your feedback and we included 40% more content in this copy. We created the report to be a data-backed handbook for building the foundations of your brand's community. For instance, did you know that 70% of communities we surveyed saw growth over the last 12 months? And we know those businesses are growing too. Other metrics we dive into include community growth, biggest pain points, community purpose, what are other community managers measuring, funding, participation, C-suite involvement, and much, much, much more. In this book, we present the data and expert insights from Richard Gott, Michelle Goodall, Vincent Boone, Keen Bakatari, Rosie Sherry, Matt Sullivan, Laura Roth, Nicole Saunders, Blaise Grimes-Vaught, and Jan Carlisle. We've also included frameworks such as community archetypes, ecosystem of impact, community participation ladder, and the community first culture nexus. There's so much in here. I can't wait for you to get your hands on this new edition. You can order your printed copy from Amazon today, or download a digital copy for free at digitalcommunityleaders.com.